Alright. Hey guys, I'm Nazi534. Welcome. This is that video that I said I was going to do for After Time and Eternity, my final thoughts on it for Uchiha and Warboard to kind of, I guess, convince them that the game is not as shit as they think it is. I was going to do this like 5 months ago after Time and Eternity, but school happened and then, other things happened and blah blah blah, and I couldn't quite catch up with all of it. But hey, you know what? Now I have a break from school and work, kind of, and life. This week's been pretty hectic, but I think I finally have the time to write that review first of all, and then do this video. So let's get to it. A little backstory onto the why I tried to play Time and Eternity in the first place was, alright, so the game came out. Well, it was about to come out, and Warboard and Uchiha were super hyped about it. And I saw how hyped they were and excited, so I decided to go and look up the trailer and see stuff about the game, and I guess I kind of wanted to play it too, but I was broke at the time, unemployed rather, and I didn't have the money to sink into this game, and if I did, I didn't want to quite throw it out there right away, because what if I don't like the game, blah blah blah, and I'm stuck with this crappy game, sell it back for like $30, and I'm like, oh no. But I wanted to wait until I heard about it from Uchiha and Warboard. So Uchiha and Warboard, they get maybe a few hours into the game. Warboard gets 30 minutes, Uchiha gets about a couple of hours before both of them just decide to stop playing it and shut it off. And a few days later, we go to a GameStop and I spot the game on the shelf and I say, "Hey Uchiha, what did you think about that Time and Eternity game over there?" And he goes on about how shit it is and how awful it is. And I say Warboard the same thing, and he says, yeah, he sold it, I sold it the next day, and it was awful, and it was worthless, not worth the money, etc, etc, etc. Immediately right there, my bullshit meter goes right off. I'm like, you only played like 30 minutes of the game, how could you possibly think it was absolute garbage? And you too, you only played an hour of it, but since I did want to get their opinion about it, I did kind of consider the game as bad. I didn't quite see it as good, but since none of us have really played it, I just decided to go, yeah, best game ever. It's kind of like a joke, sarcastically. Like, people are just, like, with Bidoof. I keep saying the word like too much. With Bidoof, I kind of just see a whole bunch of people ripping on it, making fun of Bidoof, and saying how crap it is, and then when I find stuff like a team of Bidoofs taking on a bunch of uber legendaries online or whatnot, I just kind of say to myself, hey, Bidoof is the best Pokemon ever, and I tell it to everybody else. Because there's part of me that's just like, yeah, no, 180. The thing you say is bad is actually the best thing that's ever been created by people ever. So, what started off as a joke ended up with me playing Time and Eternity not once, but twice. Played through that game twice. And through those two playthroughs, I've noticed a few things that I have gripes with, and then a few things that I found that are just gilded qualities about the game. And the first kind of gilded quality I want to talk about is the Tokitowa character, which is just one person with two souls. So, two people, one body. Yeah. Two persons, one body. And I found that I didn't really pay attention to her much through the first playthrough, but going through the end of the game and how you have to pick one of the girls to die for the other one to live, I kind of felt sad because both of them were good girls. I mean, throughout the game, I did kind of do some of the dialogue choices, and she ended up being a rather honest and well-written, nice character. And I really kind of liked her throughout the game. So when one of them ended up dying, I kind of wanted to go back and see if there was a best ending. I read it up online, and apparently there was, so I went through that and got the best ending. Went through a second time, just because of her. But she's kind of like this golden corn in a sea of diarrhea and poo. Like, you can wash it off and you can sanitize it as much as you want, but I don't think you would quite eat it, would you? And that said, I think she's one of the better aspects of the game. Something definitely to go there and kind of play it for. That said, though, the other characters kind of bog her down, and God, Drake, especially Drake slash the main character, I kind of torn between him because he makes a great parody character, but at the same time, Nis tried to spin him as a like actual character. He's just this bunch of terrible, awful trite shonen tropes into one person. Like, he's that pervert, he's that kind of white knight, kind of clueless at the same time. But those kind ofs make him like a character. Because if he was full blown all of those things, then yeah, of course he would be a parody character. But since those kind ofs are added in there, he's not quite entirely those things. And this tries to play him off as like this actual character, which I'm super conflicted about. Oh well. But the story is rather mediocre. The characters, the rest of them, are banal. The next gilded quality that I wanted to talk about was the hand-drawn aspect of the game. Yes, that's a fantastic thing because no other game's done that. It's really novel in a way of speaking, but all these like hand-drawn things I know are super difficult to do because having taken like an animation class in high school and being a fan of anime, I know that doing things like frame by frame sucks, and then I don't really know how else animators animate besides the frame by frame, because that's what I did in high school animation class, and that was rather hard, and we spent like a good 3 months doing 10 seconds of video. I mean, just imagine how long it would have taken them to do hours and hours and hours of gameplay. I mean, it's not just an anime either that has a like single direction to go. It's not linear. It has like different multiple paths to take. You can do different things. And for instance, you know, like Towa, the blonde-haired one, will no. Towa is the redhead. Toki, I think, is the blonde hair. She will like attack Ricardo, but Towa will not. She'll like kind of sit back, kind of deny his, or not deny, but like reject his proposals of love and marriage and blah blah blah. Though this hand-drawn aspect is really like beautiful, they pull it off fantastically because everything's hand-drawn, from the characters and the enemies and even the backgrounds, though they're kind of shittier with like watercolors or something like that. As beautiful and amazing as that is, it's also the game's greatest weak point, because that hand-drawn thing also provides the greatest like setback in terms of gameplay, because throughout most of the game all you're doing is like standing behind the shoulder of Toki or Towa, whichever one, you know, seeing in front. You can't really change the camera angles, and then you walk in one single direction. It doesn't really offer a lot of like options. And the battle system, they try to create this quasi free roam arena style battle, but since it is a 2D model with anime gifs, I guess, they can't really maneuver as much. That said, though, Nis could have just made it a RPG where the Towa and like the main character are standing side by side, and then you just command them and they step out and attack, like Final Fantasy 1 through 6. They could have made it like that, but they didn't. They offered like a rather large amount of maneuverability for Towa. So I think that's I was like, they went above and beyond there. However, in comparison to like Tales of Exilio or Devil Summoner, Raidou versus whatever, like that circular arena that you can fight in, you can maneuver around and dodge attacks and attack, and you have so many more options. That's way better. And since that came out around the same time, as a matter of fact, Devil Summoner, Raidou versus King Abaddon, and the Solus Army came out way before A Time in Eternity. But that said, if Time and Eternity would have come out maybe 10 years earlier, it would have revolutionized JRPGs. What with like Tales of Symphonia being one of the premier free roamy kind of RPGs But even then, that had like a linear battle system. You can only go back and forth when you were fighting, and you couldn't change like directions unless you were targeting a different enemy. But until the next one that came out, then they had that free roaming battle style. Alright, the battle system difficulty, it's not all that difficult, honestly, and I can't say if that's a good or bad thing, but having a bit of a challenge, I did enjoy fighting the enemies for the first time, because I think that's where the challenge really comes out. But once you figure out how to battle the enemy, once you battle them once, you've pretty much battled every single one after that, and you can figure out a strategy easily after that to beat them, and then it just becomes, you know, a tried and true pattern until you beat them. So that's rather easy, but there is this huge difficulty spike with some enemies having exorbitant amounts of HP, and even like Makimona and the final bosses having huge amounts of just difficulty, because with the rest of the game it was like this, and then suddenly Makimona and Mobius, just asymptotic relationship there with the difficulty. And God, it was so difficult. You saw Uchiha and myself trying to beat Makimona. We got insta-killed, and even when I went back and switched the armors on the girls so that they could withstand that magical insta-kill, Makimona would come in and beat our ass down with physical attacks, and that would just kill us instantly. Like, when I did that, I went back and then I trained a little, I think 2 or 1 level, and then that made all of the difference, because then I just like tanked all of her hits and she could barely do anything to me, really. So the game has a bit of a disconnect there with the like difficulty and whatnot. But I think that's all I really wanted to say about Time and Eternity. Was just its difficulty. The two best like parts of the game, they're Tokitoa and the hand-drawn aspect, the hand-drawn everything rather. And is this game good or bad? I don't know. I can't honestly say. I don't think it's either good or bad. I can't say it's a 2.5 out of 5, because trying to section off the game and shelf it away into these certain categories is just, I think, kind of stupid, because then it just cuts off the different aspects of the game that could transcend all of that, such as the hand-drawn qualities, or, I don't know, the superb menu style. It didn't have a superb menu style, but all I'm trying to say is trying to attribute this subjective reality onto them, saying it's good or bad, labeling it as such, kind of takes away from other people to see the game as something else, you know? There could be someone out there who absolutely loves this game. And there's a great plethora of people who don't like this game. But to say that because the great plethora of people don't like this game, it's a bad game, is, I think, false. It doesn't do the game justice. So all I really want to say about Time and Eternity is, if you enjoy it, if it's your cup of tea and you want to play it, then go right on ahead. Pay some amount of money to play it, because in the end, if the game has entertained you, then it's done its job. And I want to give you a little quote here from Video Game High School. The head principal, who's the Epic Mealtime host, says, "It's not about you, it's about the game." And in the end, yeah, it's about the game, because it doesn't matter if the game is good or bad. If it entertained you, then fuck everyone else and what they think. So I guess the last thing that I want to say then is, Time and Eternity good or bad? Fuck if I know, go figure it out for yourself. Alright, so that was my little spiel there. I have a written like document out. I'm gonna put a link to it on the description. I'm gonna figure out some way to share it over Google Docs, but that's it for me, guys. Nazi534, and I'll see you later on whatever the hell I'm doing. Bye.